Well, welcome to our very first museum moments. We are celebrating 25 years of our Goodman family Judaic and Archival Museum at Temple. I am thrilled to be here with Rabbi Harold and Susan Loss and Terry and Mark Goodman.
That's us over here.
Terry and Mark Goodman.
Hello.
The Goodman Family Judaic and Archival Museum at Temple Israel's funding is provided by the Goodman Family Judaica Museum Fund, which we'll learn all about. It is dedicated to the memory of Mary and Albert Goodman. Our mission is to collect, preserve, and exhibit articles from antiquity to modern times that represent the historical and cultural development of the Jewish people in relation to customs, belief, and artistic styles. We like to demonstrate how Jewish art is essentially bound to ritual and spiritual life. We like to educate pride in our heritage by acquiring and preserving a collection for Temple Israel. And by preserving our past, we ensure our future. The museum displays artistic works that manifest in their nature the ongoing traditions of Judaism and also the historical expression of our Jewish people. So I am thrilled to be here. Mazel Tov and 25 amazing. And thank you to the Goodmans. Thank you. And we're going to learn all about our amazing and unique museum at Temple Israel today. So I want to start with Rabbi Loss. And did Temple always have a museum, Rabbi Loss?
Absolutely not. I'm going to translate into English what you just described in your introduction. We didn't have a museum. We had absolutely nothing. We had pieces that existed in various parts of the temple, and it was absolutely, there was no attempt at organizing. I mean, we had collected over a series of years, mainly some pieces of art that had been given to us, others that had been collected by the community working together to put pieces in different places, but there was no organizational principle and there was no museum. And so what's happened over these 25 years is really a lesson in how to create something that is so unique and I believe so incredibly special. And at this point is an important part of Temple Israel's life.
Very important of our history. Shoshi, tell us the motivation behind creating a museum. Where did the idea come from?
Okay, I had a very dear friend, Lois Singer, who was a docent at the DIA. And every time I saw her or I would be on the phone with her, she'd say, "You need to start a museum. Temple Israel needs a museum." And she kept pushing and pushing. So the idea started sitting in my brain. And I found myself going to other museums and looking online to see what other people have done. And then I went to Josh Bennett's wedding.
Meg was there also, right?
To Meg
Just want to make sure.
In Louisville. And that congregation had a museum there. So I walked around the building and I was taking pictures to get ideas of things that were some people were doing. And then I guess it was 25 years ago, we went to Israel with a mission, an adult mission, and somehow the topic came up. And I believe that Terry and Mark were on that mission with us.
They absolutely were on the mission.
We were on that mission, no question.
What's your memory, Mark? I'm dying to know. Terry, yours.
It was kind of an interesting period of time back in '96. We had heard that the two of you were leading a trip to Israel. Terry was extremely excited about going. I was lukewarm about going because I'm such an introvert, you know.
He was less than lukewarm.
I was less than lukewarm. I really was. But we decided that we were going to go to the orientation stuff and listen to the spiel. And so that's kind of what we did. And the more we went and the more we heard about the sites and the travel, the more excited we got about the trip. One of the interesting things about that particular time was that Israel was being bombarded with rocket fire from all of its neighbors. I believe, if my memory serves me right, we started out with close to 3 busloads of people. When we actually took the trip, there was 1 bus. That was it.
Everyone had canceled. They were too frightened.
Everybody else had canceled the trip. So what, you know, what could have been a disaster was actually kind of a unique situation, because
It was very intimate.
as we moved around the bus and sat with different people, we got to be friends, lifelong friends with a lot of these couples. And it was spectacular that way, you know? So I have to thank my wife for making me go on the trip.
And we also want to thank the Losses, who created a very blessed and cherished memory for everyone on this trip. Because as we tried to grasp what Jewish life was like there, it was so much to really take in, because we were gone from sunrise to sunset. And I have to say that what drove me there was that my grandmother had passed away some time before, and she was buried in Tel Aviv. And we didn't know whether we would be able to make the Tel Aviv part of the trip, but we did. And a beautiful thing happened then. There was a brunch that was announced for all of us before we left Tel Aviv. And we decided if we could leave that brunch for an hour, we could find the gravesite of my grandmother, because I had all the information. And if you can dream it, the Losses and Temple will make it happen.
Well, that brings me exactly to the dream we're here to talk about. What exactly motivated the moment that led you, and I remember this, so we all may have different memories, to say, who were you talking to? To Shosh, to Susan, whose Hebrew name is Shoshi? What brought the museum? Did she mention it to you?
You know, I'm not sure of the exact interface there. When we started traveling through the country, we had some very emotional moments as we went through the country. We had stopped at all of these art stores, these metal crafter places. We stopped at, Terry and I had always had a tremendous interest in glass art and art in general. So, and my parents had a tremendous interest in art in general.
So we were very exposed, and you took us to all these places. We met artists, we met, we wanted to also purchase things so that we could support Israel as we went through each little place that showed anything that was artistic. We bought more pictures and more things to bring home for everybody. And I think that this was all created as a love for what you did on the trip, and as a way to honor you and honor Mark's parents for this extraordinary experience. And we wanted to leave a legacy for our children. And when we brought it up to our family, they were so supportive. And I honestly can't remember what the connection was with all of us, except we were always talking about displaying beautiful things at Temple in the foyer. I remember discussing it always.
Well, look, part of the mission was we didn't want to have a stagnant museum. You know, a lot of the museums, I remember going on a couple of trips, but Shosh and Terry went on a number of trips to Jewish synagogues and museums around the country. One of them I remember was down in Florida, in probably the coldest night of the year, in a hotel with no heat
and no food.
So I heard about that for a long time, you know. Yeah. But the experience of going and visiting, you know, we went to Temple Emmanuel in New York. They had a huge museum and Judaica collection, but it was all static. It was all in one place. It was off to the side. You had to actually go there and say, I want to go to the museum. And it was always the same.
And it was just a couple of cabinets. But to go back, to just give you a little context about this, when we decided to do the museum and we all agreed to do it, I remember distinctly talking with you, Rabbi, and you were so supportive, even though we never did anything like it. And you and David Tisdale said, if you can dream it, we will help you do it. And would you like to chair the committee and get people to join? And I said that I was frightened to do this because I've never chaired a committee, or I've not been a member of committees at that time. And you had an answer right away. No problem. David will help you.
And then
I,
you and Susan began to carry the ball.
yes,
right.
Mark and I were at the meetings, but it was really the four of us. So the
Yeah.
first question was where to place the museum. And Mark, you remembered exactly, which was why we decided to place it in the atrium.
right,
Exactly.
right.
Not people would see our museum. People would actually not have to go to a room hidden in the back corner of a synagogue,
That's
and
exactly.
they'd never see any of it. And number two, it was not going to be static. There would be new programs, new shows, new exhibits.
That was really critical. You know, one of the goals of having this museum was education. And so a lot of the exhibits that we brought in, we had a Haggadah exhibit that was spectacular.
For Passover. it was
We had a
beautiful.
South Haven exhibit that was, fantastic. I mean, where can you go to the Catskills of the Midwest?
True.
We had the Streets of Jerusalem exhibit that was actually terrific for the kids because they got to walk the streets of Jerusalem and learn as they went around. So this was a very, very active
Unique and active process. And you became really involved in CAJM, in the Coalition of American Jews.
Yes,
Very
yes, we
involved.
did.
And that's how we went to Mississippi, Ohio, New York.
That's
Florida.
Susan and Terry, not me, nor
That's
Mark.
right.
Neither of us.
No,
Yeah.
I went to a couple of them. I did.
I went to two,
Mark
I went to a
to-
couple of
but
them.
it was the girls that really,
Susan
that really
and I
carried the ball.
really learned a lot, and we wanted to bring back as much as we could to the committee, who I'm never going to get over how enthusiastic the members of the committee to the museum were. And we would meet weekly from 7 to 9 and try to learn as much as we could to present meaningful exhibits. And we did.
We
And
did.
CAJM is what? What is CAJM?
Conference of
American Jewish Museum.
Jewish museums, yeah.
And we hosted them one year, which was
Yeah.
phenomenal. I mean,
It was
2000
great.
most exciting.
But the one in Mississippi for me was the greatest because I didn't realize how many Southern Jews there were. I couldn't believe all these Jewish people in Mississippi. I loved it.
And it's also an organization, by the way, that is of the great museums in the Jewish world.
Right.
So the annual meeting was not just synagogues or temples. It was the Jewish
It
museums
was
from
both.
Europe,
Right.
from
All
Israel.
over.
Yes.
And we were this small little temple museum, and we were able to learn an enormous amount from people who had devoted their lives. These were professionals in the area of Jewish museums, and we went with
Absolutely.
the idea of learning from them and gaining insight, and they were so incredibly helpful. So they gave us kind of a pattern, a method to create what we became a magnificent synagogue temple museum, which we are enjoying today.
So tell me about the journey that you went on to create the physical museum. I remember when I started at Temple, and that was way back when, 24 years ago, but I remember you displaying artwork on the brick walls, and maybe if we had a big exhibit, we'd pull out some folding tables and we put them on
Yes.
but we've evolved.
We had to learn about the design of the cabinets and how to create a dust-free environment and how to do the lighting. There was so much that we had to learn, and we did. Everyone was very helpful. The DIA in particular, I remember calling them, and they were very helpful in helping us with that. But Mark pursued that.
One of their members came out to our congregation to look around and give us specific advice. You need to do X, Y, and Z, and she was just wonderful.
And we
Really
kept
very
changing the cabinets. I mean,
Right.
we
Because they
added
weren't
lights,
dust-free.
we added new, and now you're going to see, because this is a series, you're going to see what was the beautiful cabinets put together in cabinetry, and now cabinets that were purchased that are the same cabinets that are used at the Smithsonian Museum. So we changed completely, but we learned. It was an experience, and now it's magnificent. The cabinetry is magnificent.
I remember we still have them, these movable walls. I remember when Leah Rabin had come into town to do her book promotion, and she came to Temple, and we had a display of her husband's photographs on these movable walls. And she came in and she got emotional, and she ran across this photo of,
It was of her husband, and she wanted to send it to President Clinton, and she wanted to take a picture right then, like just right then. So I said to her, you have to put your purse down. I wanted it to look really beautiful. And she was wearing a beautiful suit, and we put her purse down, and before I knew it, there was a security man all over me. Give me the purse, hand me the purse, don't
well,
move.
she had security.
It was startling and fabulous. And it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
But we did that kind of exhibit, where people could actually see history all playing out right in front of themselves,
Yes.
Which was remarkable.
It's amazing, and the stories that you have to tell about all of the exhibits.
Right, there are stories.
And the permanent collection, how did that come to be? Where did that come from? Did you always know you were going to have a permanent collection?
That was always part of the original goal, was to develop a permanent collection.
Right.
We thought that, what a terrific way to give to Temple.
And
Give a piece of art.
donate pieces, which is frequently what happened.
Exactly.
But what happened was you would take these trips, and the groups that went with you were so excited with everything that you did that they always wanted to give you something special for Temple in honor of everything you did for them on these Israel trips.
And that's continued. And that is
Isn't that
continued
wonderful?
with
What
the
a
trips our other rabbis and clergy are taking.
Yes.
So it's a very interesting process. So we wanted a permanent collection. We had nothing. And so when you look at our permanent collection, I know you'll see it in several of the other sessions we'll have about the museum. It is magnificent today. It's grown from absolutely nothing. We bought numerous pieces. Last time we were in Israel, we were able to buy 3 magnificent pieces. And then we would bring them in, and the Goodman Fund enabled us to do some of that. And then we had the money to buy them, and then we'd say, and ask people, would you like to dedicate this in memory of a family member? So we were able to continually grow the collection, and we're able to do that in a very, very beautiful, beautiful way.
I agree.
I remember visiting the artist Halvani, his art colony, which was really spectacular because
there we are.
there it
That's
is.
a Halvani piece.
Well, I got a Halvani piece sitting in my
We have
foyer.
great stories
And we have them sitting outside at Temple.
We
Yes.
sure did.
And, being able to visit with the artist and have the artist then come to Temple and put on a one-man show was really spectacular.
Yeah.
And sell pieces, because that's what we did. And I know, because I bought the first piece.
Number 2 is over here, Mark. That's why I put it here.
So the permanent collection, though, is not only displayed in the museum cases, it's all encompassing. It's all over the building,
Yes.
the garden, and the sculptures. And
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes, it's all around Temple.
so
And that was really the purpose of it.
okay. And a family can decide they want to donate a piece. And what's the process? How does that work?
It has to go through the museum committee first, then
Okay.
it goes to the executive committee to approve it. In other words, we've raised the level. We wanted to take pieces that were truly not repetition of things we already had, but also fine art. And the collection has grown that way. In 25 years, when you walk into that temple, I'm thrilled when I walk into the temple. And remember, you're walking into the atrium right in front of the sanctuary. So it's used and seen by everyone continually.
Exactly.
I will tell you, it's very gratifying to see families stand in front of it before or after a service and start a conversation with all the generations. And Susan, you took this committee and this museum to another level, and thank you so very much. We're very grateful. And Miriam is continuing to do this, and we are a very grateful family.
Thank you. We are so grateful to your
And
family.
Temple Israel is grateful because a wonderful congregation, a large congregation, should have a museum that reflects really the quality of Jewish art that's available. And seeing 30 kids, 40 kids, 50 kids standing in front of a museum piece, and we will see that again soon, I hope. And having a teacher use that as a teaching tool, it's just extraordinary. So thank you.
Absolutely.
That conversation on a bus. When you said, Mark, we want to do something for Temple. See, here's the real memory. And Susan says, I have an idea. Temple needs a museum. And because of your background, that was important to you. And that synergy, that connection, it's a connection of friendship. It's a connection of years of being together. And it's a connection of family. So on behalf of Temple, I know we all thank you. And I think over the next couple sessions, we're going to learn about the collection and a lot more that'll go directly into how we will maintain this museum into the future. So, Carrie,
God bless,
idea.
and God bless Lois Singer, because she really pushed this.
And I'll say amen to that.
Yes.
Yeah, we will. We will be having 3 more episodes of Museum Moments. We're going to discuss the permanent collection. We're going to discuss some of the favorite exhibits that have come through. And we are also hoping to interview our artists who created the Stender.
Yeah.
So
Wouldn't that be fabulous?
Tremendous.
And other artists, perhaps.
So yeah,
Other
Dave
artists.
Moss, Noah Greenberg, and some local artists, hopefully. So we have so much more to share and so much more to learn about the museum and to celebrate the 25 years.
Thank you.
So
I think it's going to be wonderful.
Can
Yeah,
I-
go ahead, Mark.
So one funny memory, and because it just scooted by my head. You know, Terry dragged me to this trip, and she dragged me to the airport. And then all the girls were dragging their husbands, and they were running around introducing all the husbands to all the husbands so that they could be with the girls and the guys could find a friend.
And you did find a friend.
I did, but Terry and I have this real difficult time traveling light. Okay, so during these orientation things, Shosh and Rabbi Loss were showing us how to pack in 2 little duffel bags. Well, the Goodmans, us two, showed up at the airport with 4 gigantic cases full of stuff. And what was in the cases besides a few sweatshirts and T-shirts and stuff? Toilet paper, candy, snacks. I mean, it was goofy.
People are still, when they see us at Temple, talk about
They
that.
still laugh about that. So,
And then we forced you to empty all of that stuff on the way, and we filled them with magnificent museum pieces.
that was it.
This was part of a plan, guys.
That we certainly
We
did.
knew that extra suitcases, Terry and I had this conversation beforehand. Bring bags, we'll fill them, bring them home, create a museum, and really thank you so much.
Yeah.
Again, Carrie, thank you for bringing us together. I know in other sessions, there will be other people, the present co-chairs, of which Susan is one, and artists and others who will share their thoughts about 25 years in creating a museum.
This was a true labor of love.
No question about it.
It was
Yes,
a labor
was.
to memorialize my mother, who had just passed away. Oh no, she hadn't passed away. It was my
It was
dad.
your father.
It was my dad who passed away.
But you wanted to honor your mom.
But we wanted to honor my mom, and I think one of the really important things was we as a family loved Temple, and we wanted to have a legacy at Temple. We wanted to have something that my grandchildren's children could see and say, "Oh, that was my family." And so it was a really big motivator for us. We wanted that to happen, and so we were so grateful for this trip. I mean, it was a cool trip.
Yeah, just unforgettable.
It was an unforgettable trip. So
Thank you
you.
again.
thank you guys.
We love you guys.
Love you
You too.
Thank you, everybody. It was good to see you. Take good care.
Stay well,
too.
stay
Stay
safe.
safe and healthy.
Hey.
Stay safe, all of us.
Love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.